I secretly learned my girlfriend's language and discovered her cheating scheme. I secretly learned my wife's language and overheard her sneaky plans. I'm still trying to wrap my head around everything that's happened in the last few days, and honestly, I'm at a loss for what to think or do next. Here's the situation. My wife Paula is from France and I'm from the US. We've been together for a roller coaster 3 years and she's everything I thought I wanted. She's super smart, incredibly beautiful, and we used to get each other on so many levels. Our relationship felt like something out of a fairy tale. About a year into dating, I knew she was the one I wanted to be with forever, so I decided to learn French to surprise her and eventually propose to her in her native language. I've been at it for over 6 months now, and I've gotten to the point where I can catch the drift of most basic conversations in French. Now, here's where things got messy. We were on a vacation at a tropical resort, enjoying a break before getting back to the grind of work. It was an amazing time filled with lots of love and fun, and I couldn't have been happier being with Paula every moment of the day. But then, 2 days ago, something happened that shook me to my core. We were all at a big dinner buffet having a good time with conversations flying around the table. My family adores Paula, and they're all in on my plan to propose. By now, my French is decent enough that I can understand the basics of what's being said around me. Out of nowhere, this guy I've never seen before walks up to our table and says something to Paula in French. I've replayed this moment over and over in my head, so I know exactly what was said. He mentioned something about meeting up with her later that night, and she didn't exactly shut him down. I was so shocked by this exchange that I completely zoned out from reality for a bit. I can't remember what happened right after, whether Paula said anything about the guy or if the topic was just dropped. I was lost in my thoughts, trying to make sense of the situation when I finally snapped back to the present. For the past couple of days, I've been feeling completely numb, like I'm just going through the motions without any real sense of what's happening around me. It's as if my emotions are locked up somewhere I can't reach them. After that guy left, I managed to act normally for about 5 minutes before excusing myself to the bathroom. Even after splashing water on my face, I didn't feel any different. The night continued as if nothing happened, and so did the next day. It wasn't until this morning that the dam finally broke and I found myself crying in the shower. Part of me thinks I should talk to her about what happened, but then again, it seems pretty clear-cut, doesn't it? The way they interacted looked way too flirty to me, and I'm usually not the guy who gets jealous or possessive. Paula always had a knack for making me feel like everything was my fault, like I was the one who was being unreasonable. She'd roll her eyes and give me that smirk whenever I brought up anything serious. I can't shake the feeling that there was something going on between them, especially since their conversation seemed so casual and flirty. If anything did happen, it had to be when I was asleep because we've been inseparable otherwise. The thought alone makes me sick to my stomach. Right now I'm typing this out in our resort's lobby, and she's just a few feet away, oblivious to the storm inside me. I've been acting like everything's fine, even maintaining our intimacy, but inside I'm a mess. I know I'm not dealing with my feelings in the healthiest way, but I'm at a loss. Part of me feels like I'm losing my mind, swinging between despair and desperation. I've thought about bringing it up to her, but whenever I try, I just freeze up. There's a chance she isn't cheating, and maybe there's a reasonable explanation for their exchange. Maybe she did explain and I just wasn't in the right state of mind to hear it. As much as I love her, the idea of her cheating is something I can't tolerate. I've even thought about retaliating by cheating myself, but that's not really something I do. I'm stuck in this place of not knowing how to approach, or even if I should. I need some guidance here. Am I losing it, overthinking? Please, I could really use some advice on what to do next. So there I was, sitting in the lobby, my mind a tangled mess. Paula, on the other hand, was laughing with some folks by the bar, acting like nothing in the world could bother her. That was typical Paula, never letting anything get to her, at least not on the surface. She could be downright nasty when she wanted to be, always knowing how to twist the knife just right. I remember one time she told me I was pathetic for wanting to spend a quiet night at home instead of going out. It hurt, but I brushed it off. Now I was beginning to wonder how many other times I had ignored the red flags. I kept replaying the conversation with that guy in my head. I knew enough French to understand the gist of it, and it wasn't just small talk. They were planning something, and Paula's coy smiles and giggles only made it worse. She always had a way of making me feel insecure, and now it seemed like she was doing it on purpose. I decided I had to talk to her. I couldn't keep this bottled up any longer. After all, what kind of marriage is built on secrets and lies? So I walked over to where she was sitting, her laughter grating on my nerves like nails on a chalkboard. I waited for a break in the conversation and then asked if we could talk privately. She rolled her eyes, clearly annoyed, but followed me to a quieter corner of the lobby. "What is it now, Jake?" she snapped, her arms crossed defensively. I took a deep breath, trying to steady my nerves. "Who was that guy you were talking to at dinner the other night?" I asked, keeping my voice as calm as I could manage. Her eyes widened for a split second before she regained her composure. "Oh, him. Just some guy I met. We were chatting, no big deal." "It didn't look like just chatting," I said, feeling a surge of anger. "It looked a lot more than that, Paula. I know enough French to get the gist of your conversation." She sighed dramatically, like I was a child throwing a tantrum. "You're overreacting, Jake. You're always so insecure. It's really unattractive, you know." That stung. I clenched my fists, trying to keep my cool. "I just want to know the truth," I said quietly. "Are you seeing someone else?" Paula laughed, a cold, mocking sound. "Oh, please, Jake, if I wanted to cheat on you, don't you think I'd be a bit more discreet? Honestly, you're pathetic." Her words cut deep, but I wasn't about to back down. "I saw the way you looked at him, Paula, and I heard enough to know you were planning to meet up with him. Just tell me the truth." Paula's expression shifted from annoyed to outright hostile. "You know what, Jake? Maybe if you weren't such a boring, predictable husband, I wouldn't have to find excitement elsewhere." She smirked as if she enjoyed seeing the hurt on my face. "Maybe I do need someone who can keep up with me." I felt my stomach churn. This wasn't the woman I fell in love with. Or maybe it was, and I was just too blind to see it. "So you admit it," I said, my voice barely more than a whisper. "You've been seeing him." She shrugged, clearly unfazed. "What if I have? What are you going to do about it? Cry some more? Run off and tell your family?" She rolled her eyes. "Grow up, Jake." I could feel my hands shaking, a mix of anger and heartbreak. "Why, Paula? Why would you do this to us? To me?" Paula laughed again, that cold, mocking sound. "Us? There's no us, Jake. There hasn't been for a long time. You're just too wrapped up in your little fantasy to see it. Maybe I wanted to see if there was something better out there. And you know what? There is." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. The woman I had planned to spend the rest of my life with was standing here, tearing our life apart without a second thought. "So what now?" I asked, my voice hollow. "Are you just going to leave?" Paula looked at me with a mixture of pity and disdain. "Maybe I will, or maybe I'll stick around for a bit, just to see how much more pathetic you can get. Who knows?" She shrugged, completely indifferent. I felt a wave of nausea. This was it, the end of everything I thought we had. I turned away from her, unable to look at her any longer. "I need some time to think," I said, my voice trembling. "I can't do this right now." "Take all the time you need," Paula said, waving her hand dismissively. "I'll be around." I walked out of the lobby, my mind spinning. How could everything fall apart so quickly? Paula's words echoed in my head, each one like a dagger. I found myself wandering aimlessly around the resort, not sure where to go or what to do. Eventually, I ended up on the beach, staring out at the ocean. The waves crashed against the shore, a stark contrast to the turmoil inside me. I sat down in the sand, trying to make sense of it all. Had I really been that blind? How long had Paula felt this way? And more importantly, how had I missed it? I thought about the times she belittled me, made me feel small. Those moments had been increasing, hadn't they? Yet I always brushed them off, convinced myself it was just stress or a bad day. As I sat there, I started to realize that maybe this wasn't just about Paula cheating. Maybe it was about me, too. Maybe I had let her walk all over me, let her make me feel worthless. I had always tried to be the perfect husband, but maybe that wasn't enough. Or maybe, just maybe, I deserved better than this. The thought hit me like a punch to the gut. Deserve better? Was it possible that I had been settling for less than I deserved? I had always put Paula on a pedestal, but maybe she didn't belong there. Maybe she never did. I glanced back at the resort, half expecting to see Paula watching me. But she wasn't there. Of course she wasn't. She never cared enough to notice when I was hurting. I dug my hands into the sand, trying to ground myself. I needed to think clearly, needed to figure out what to do next. I pulled out my phone and opened up the Notes app. I started typing, listing out everything that had happened, everything Paula had said. Seeing it all in black and white made it more real, more concrete. And as I wrote, a plan started to form. I wasn't going to let Paula's betrayal break me. I was stronger than that. I had to be. First, I needed to talk to my family. They had always been my rock, my support system. They deserved to know what was going on. And then I needed to confront Paula again, but this time on my terms. I needed answers, closure, something to help me move forward. I couldn't let her have the last word, couldn't let her walk away thinking she had won. I stood up, brushing the sand off my jeans. I took one last look at the ocean, then turned and headed back to the resort. This wasn't over, not by a long shot. Let me know if this meets your expectations and I can post back at the resort. I found my family gathered by the pool. My sister Emily noticed me first and waved me over. She must have seen the look on my face because her smile faded as I approached. "Jake, what's wrong?" she asked, concern evident in her voice. I took a deep breath, trying to steady myself. "I need to talk to you all about something. It's about Paula." My parents and siblings turned their attention to me, their faces a mix of confusion and worry. I felt a lump in my throat, but I pushed through it. "I think Paula's been seeing someone else," I said, my voice cracking. There was a collective gasp, followed by a barrage of questions. I held up my hands to calm them down. I overheard her talking to some guy at dinner the other night. They were making plans to meet up. She didn't deny it when I confronted her. Emily put her hand on my shoulder. "I'm so sorry, Jake. I can't believe she would do something like this." My dad, ever the practical one, asked, "What are you going to do now, son?" I sighed, running a hand through my hair. I need to talk to her again, get some answers. But I wanted you all to know what's going on. I might need your support. My mom hugged me tightly. "We'll always be here for you, Jake, no matter what." I felt a bit stronger after talking to them, more resolved. With their support behind me, I knew I could face Paula again. I thanked them and made my way back to our room, determined to get the truth. When I opened the door, Paula was lounging on the bed, scrolling through her phone. She glanced up at me, clearly annoyed. "What now, Jake? Here to cry some more?" Her callousness only fueled my anger. "I want the truth, Paula. How long has this been going on? How many times have you lied to me?" She rolled her eyes, sitting up. "Oh, give it a rest, Jake. You're so dramatic. It was just a bit of fun, nothing serious." "Nothing serious?" I repeated, my voice rising. "You've been tearing our marriage apart for fun?" Paula smirked, unbothered. "Oh, please, our marriage was falling apart long before this. You're just too blind to see it." Her words stung, but I couldn't let her get to me. "I deserve better than this, Paula. Better than you." She laughed, a harsh, bitter sound. "Good luck finding someone who will put up with your boring ass, Jake." I clenched my fists, trying to keep my composure. Maybe I will, and maybe I'll find someone who actually respects me. Paula's expression turned icy. "You're pathetic, but fine. If you want out, then get out. See if I care." I took a deep breath, feeling a strange sense of relief. "I will, and I won't look back." I walked out of the room feeling a mix of anger and relief. As much as Paula's words hurt, they also gave me the push I needed to move forward. I headed back to the lobby where Emily was waiting for me. "How did it go?" she asked, worry etched on her face. "Not great," I admitted, slumping into a chair. "She's not sorry, doesn't even care. Said it was just fun." I shook my head, feeling the sting of her indifference. Emily sat beside me, her hand on my shoulder. "You're doing the right thing, Jake. You deserve someone who loves you for who you are." I nodded, grateful for her support. "Thanks, Em. I needed to hear that." We sat in silence for a while, watching the sun set over the ocean. As the sky turned shades of orange and pink, I felt a sense of calm wash over me. It was time to take control of my life again, time to find my own happiness. The next morning I packed my bags and checked out of the resort. Paula barely looked up as I left, her attention fixed on her phone. It hurt, but I pushed through, knowing I was making the right decision. I took a cab to the airport, my mind racing with thoughts of what lay ahead. Back home, I threw myself into work, trying to keep my mind off everything that had happened. My family rallied around me, their support a constant reminder that I wasn't alone. I started seeing a therapist, working through the pain and confusion Paula had left behind. Slowly, I began to find my footing again. One evening, as I sat on my porch, sipping a cold beer, Emily called. "Hey, Jake," she said, her voice cheerful. "There's someone I want you to meet. She's a friend from work, really sweet. I think you'd like her." I hesitated, the wound still fresh, but then I thought about Paula's mocking words. "Good luck finding someone who'll put up with your boring ass." Maybe it was time to prove her wrong, to show her and myself that I could find happiness again. "Sure, Em," I said, a small smile forming. "I'd like that." A few days later, Emily introduced me to Sarah. She was everything Paula wasn't, kind, genuine, and caring. We hit it off immediately, and for the first time in a long time, I felt a spark of hope. As Sarah and I got to know each other, I realized how much I had been missing in my relationship with Paula. Sarah appreciated the little things, the quiet moments. She didn't need grand gestures or constant excitement. She just wanted someone who cared about her, and I was more than happy to be that person. Sure, here's part 7 of the revised story. Leaving the resort was like a weight lifting off my shoulders. I couldn't believe IVJTMD put up with Paul of JTM's crap for so long. On the flight back, I replayed our conversation in my head, her words biting at me. But each time I felt a bit stronger, more determined. Back home, I crashed at my brother Mike's place for a few days. Mike was always the tough one, the guy who didn't AmITheA take nonsense from anyone. When I told him everything, he just shook his head. "Jake, you've been a damn saint putting up with her. It's about time you did something for yourself." He was right. I needed to focus on myself, get my life back on track. First, I made a list of things I needed to do. Find a new place, sort out the finances, and talk to a lawyer. Paula could keep the damn house for all I cared. I wasn't VGTMT interested in fighting over it. I just wanted out. A few days later, I met up with Paula to discuss the practical stuff. She was her usual bitchy self, rolling her eyes at every suggestion I made. "You always were the boring one, Jake. No wonder I needed some excitement," she sneered. I bit back my retort, refusing to give her the satisfaction of knowing how much she got to me. Instead, I focused on the task at hand, making sure everything was divided fairly. By the end of it, I felt drained but relieved. The end was in sight. Mike helped me find a small apartment not far from work. It was NVJTM'd much, but it was mine. I spent the first night there with a 6-pack and some takeout, thinking about everything that had happened. It was time to start fresh. One evening, after settling into my new place, Emily called. "Hey, Jake, how VJTMR are you holding up?" "Better," I replied, and I meant it. "Just taking it one day at a time." "Good to hear. Listen, there's a new bar that just opened up downtown. Thought you might want to check it out, maybe meet some new people." I hesitated, but then I remembered how isolated Paula had made me feel. Sure, why not? I agreed. Could be fun. At the bar, I ran into an old friend, Mark, from college. We caught up over a few beers, laughing about old times. It felt good to reconnect, to remember there was more to life than Paul of JTMM's drama. After a while, Mark introduced me to his friend Lisa. She was smart, funny, and didn't VJJMT'd have that biting edge Paula always had. We hit it off, and for the first time in a long time, I felt a spark of something good. Lisa listened, really listened when I talked. It was a nice change from Paula VJJTM's constant dismissiveness. As the night went on, I realized I was actually enjoying myself. Maybe there was hope for me after all. Maybe, just maybe, I could move on from Paula and find something better. The next few weeks were a whirlwind. I threw myself into work, determined to stay busy. Mike and Emily checked in on me regularly, making sure I was NVJTM, drowning in my own thoughts. Their support meant the world to me. I also kept seeing Lisa. She was a breath of fresh air, and being around her made me feel like maybe, just maybe, I could put the pieces of my life back together. One Saturday afternoon, Lisa and I decided to go hiking. The fresh air and exercise were exactly what I needed. As we reached the top of the trail, we sat down to catch our breath. Lisa turned to me, her eyes full of genuine concern. "Jake, how are you really doing?" she asked. "I know things have been rough." I took a deep breath, looking out at the view. "It's been hard," I admitted. "Paula was such a big part of my life, even if she was a pain. ITVJ like IVJ trying to relearn who I am without her." Lisa nodded, her expression thoughtful. "ITVJTM's okay to take your time. Healing is NVJTM to the race. And just so you know, UVJTM are doing a lot better than you think." Her words hit me hard. I hadn't VJTM realized how much I needed to hear that. "Thanks, Lisa. That means a lot." As we made our way back down the trail, I felt lighter than I had in months. Lisa had a way of making me feel seen, appreciated, something Paula never did. A few days later, I received a call from Paula. My heart sank, but I knew I had to face it. "What do you want, Paula?" I asked, keeping my voice steady. "Jake, we need to finalize the divorce papers," she said, her tone cold. "I've got better things to do than drag this out." "Fine," I replied, feeling a mix of anger and relief. "Send me the details and IVJTM'll get it done." She sighed dramatically. "You really are pathetic, you know that? Moving on so quickly, pretending you've JTMR okay." I gritted my teeth. "I am okay, Paula. More than okay, actually. And IVJTM done letting you control my life." There was a long silence on the other end before she finally spoke. "Whatever, Jake. Just get it done." I hung up, feeling a strange sense of triumph. It was over. The final chapter of my life with Paula was closing, and a new one was beginning. I told Lisa about the call later that night, and she smiled, giving me a supportive hug. "You VJTM are stronger than you know, Jake," she whispered. "And you VJMV got a whole new future ahead of you." For the first time in a long time, I believed her. I could see a path forward, one that didn't VJTMT involve Paula and her toxic ways. It was time to focus on me, on what made me happy. As the days turned into weeks, I found myself thinking less about Paula and more about the possibilities ahead. I reconnected with old friends, took up new hobbies, and continued to grow closer to Lisa. Life was starting to feel good again, and for that, I was grateful. One evening, as Lisa and I sat on my porch watching the sunset, I realized something important. Paula's betrayal had broken me, but it had also given me the chance to rebuild, to become stronger and happier than before. And for that, in a strange way, I was thankful. Months passed, and the divorce was finalized. Paula and I were officially over, and I felt a sense of freedom I hadn't known in years. With Lisa by my side, I started to feel like myself again. She supported me in ways Paula never had, and I found myself looking forward to the future with genuine excitement. One sunny afternoon, Lisa and I decided to take a road trip to the countryside. We packed a picnic and drove with the windows down, laughing and singing along to the radio. It was the kind of carefree joy I hadn't but felt in a long time. We found a quiet spot by a lake, spread out a blanket, and enjoyed our meal while soaking in the peaceful surroundings. As we lay on the blanket, watching the clouds drift by, Lisa turned to me, her eyes sparkling. "Jake, IVDJ, ye so proud of you," she said softly. You've come so far." I smiled, feeling a warmth spread through me. "I couldn't have done it without you, Lisa. You've been my rock." She blushed, looking away for a moment. "Well, you've just been pretty amazing yourself. I'm lucky to have you." We lay there in comfortable silence, the gentle breeze rustling the leaves. I realized that for the first time in years, I was truly happy. All of JTMM's betrayal had been a painful chapter in my life, but it had led me to this moment, to this incredible woman beside me. That evening, as we watched the sunset together, I knew I wanted to spend the rest of my life with Lisa. She made me feel valued and loved in ways Paula never could. I took her hand, feeling a surge of gratitude for the second chance at happiness. "Lisa," I began, my heart pounding, "I know we haven't been together for long, but you mean everything to me. I don't ever want to lose you." She turned to me, her eyes wide with surprise. "Jake, I feel the same way. You've brought so much joy into my life." I took a deep breath, gathering my courage. Would you be open to taking the next step with me? Maybe moving in together?" Lisa of JTNM's face lit up with a radiant smile. "Yes, Jake, IVJTMD love that." As we embraced, I felt a sense of peace and fulfillment. I had found someone who truly cared about me, who saw me for who I was and loved me anyway. The future felt bright and full of promise. Looking back on my journey, I realized that sometimes the hardest experiences lead to the most beautiful outcomes. Paul of DJ Tim's cruelty had shattered me, but it also pushed me to find a strength I didn't know I had. And in the end, it led me to Lisa, the person who made everything worth it. We spent that night under the stars, talking about our dreams and plans for the future. It was the beginning of a new chapter, one filled with love, laughter, and endless possibilities. And for that, I was eternally grateful. As I held Lisa close, I knew that no matter what challenges lay ahead, we would face them together, because I had finally found what I had been searching for all along: true happiness and love.